comes to for historians, trying to make sense of it in its context of art history. Because there's no real, you can say, stylized or construct of identity in Islamic architecture. It tends to be related to geometry and so forth. So what I'm trying to understand is this relationship between the subject and the object, as you explained, the unification which leads into the metaphysical realm. So with when you don't have, and I'm trying to explain and think at the same time, when you don't have a discursive type of form, it's interesting that how you see the idea of multiplicity and unity within the Islamic faith, how everything leads to the one. There's a poet, for the Persian poet Farid. He speaks about how there are 1,000 phenomena in the world, but to the men of faith it is all but one.
When he is enlightened.
So when we are speaking about the metaphysical and trying to cross this boundary, how do you put that in the context of Islamic architecture and the connection between the person who inhibits a building and, let's say, the cosmos or a higher reality? How do we break that down? Because I know Plato started this conversation a long while ago. But as yourself, having studied the Torah, how would you understand this?
Well, we have a wonderful book in German. There is an English translation to by Hans Sedelmeier. The German title is Verlust der Mitte. What is Verlust? Losing the center. Losing the center. And he describes modern architecture and art. They don't have a center. Yes, if you, for example, in Weimar, the Bauhaus ideology by Gropius, if you study that is a kind of functionalism and nonsense, yes. And Islamic art is, if it is real art, centered. You mentioned the word geometry, the geometry. And it is centered, it is a mirror of unity and multiplicity. The problem is that the architects, they constructed such wonderful buildings, did it not only by brain, but they were meditating that what they are doing. Like in medieval ages, the great masters of the cathedrals, Cologne, and in France, Notre Dame, they were not only architects like today. I'm an architect, and please, it need money to make a plan or such thing. They were initiated on a special level. Yes, on a special level. They were initiated and lived together, more or less, and they fulfilled special rules. This level you can find still in Morocco, in the craftsmen. The craftsmen are working with invocation, with dhikr, and so on. Of course, in modern time, in the Western world, they don't have rituals, they don't have initiation. Please.
In the modern time, we have something called the minimalism movement.
Yes.
As an architect, I can tell you it's very suffocating to deal with.
I know architects a lot.
Now there is no relationship between you and the object, or you and the art, or you and the space which you are experiencing.
You can see that immediately.
Now
that they have no
now it is just, there is no need for anything. It is utilitarian. It is. So this is interesting as it relates directly to our conference in general and what you were speaking about, the crisis.
Yes, architecture without spirituality or it is not necessary to speak about the whole time about metaphysics, but the modern architecture in Germany, I know that they are a mixture between engineers and artists. They believe that. But I would say I prefer an engineer because he can calculate and so on. The artist and so on. And I know that is interesting probably for you, some architects working in Saudi Arabia. The Westerners, Muslims, they are working there under the order of Saudi rich men, yes. And I will not condemn nobody, but these people don't have taste, yes. Everybody has a certain taste, yes. But if you see this monstrous great building and the other monstrous buildings, that is Stalinistic style, like the Lomonosov University, yes? It is from the point of architecture a totalitarian regime, yes? Or Mussolini or such things. That is not the architecture of
but that's New York.
Yeah,
that's New York style.
The same.
But why do you think it has no?
That's a totalitarian system too of capitalism. Yes. There are to a
but why no taste?
That's a great problem. That's a great problem.
But why do you think it has no taste?
You see that.
I don't see that. I don't see that.
This building, yes. Yes, it is great, but it's only great.
But it's great in terms of architecture and the shape.
Yes, but it is not beautiful.
Well, it made Moscow to be a complex city.
Yeah, of course. You
All
have
these
beautiful buildings.
Five buildings.
The Lomonosov is the same.
That's the whole idea of the unity of the city.
Yes, but I take only this building of the university. Nobody in our country will say that it's beautiful. It is ugly. Yes, and the Stalin Allee in Berlin is ugly, and they will destroy. They will destroy that now. Yes. No, it is the different understanding, of course. And in Saudi Arabia, you have the same great building, like in the United States. That is not beauty. That's not beautiful. You have to understand what is beauty. Beauty is a metaphysical expression. That's what is behind what they have
but
for.
It is very metaphysical. I mean, there cannot be a more metaphysical symbol of the kind of society that Stalin attempted to build. It is metaphysics in materiality, in material shape.
And it's very different from Saudi Arabia style, you know.
It is metaphysical.
It's completely different.
Nothing but metaphysics.
But well, that's your opinion, and you can have your opinion. Yes, but it is in our eyes a totalitarian style,
but
because it is big without any beauty.
Living inside.
Yes.
There's nothing totalitarian about it. It's very democratic.
Oh, that's new for me. That's very new for me.
Sorry, can I just come in? Because
yes.
Beauty has just been mentioned, and as we've seen with beauty, the idea of beauty it's subjective, but within the Islamic...
That's the problem. It is subjective or objective.
Ah, yes, but
yes.
within Islamic...
I don't speak about subjective feelings of beauty. I speak about the traditional concept of beauty. The things have to be centered. A center. They have a center. The old architecture have a center. If they don't have a center, they are certainly they can be to a certain degree beautiful, but in a very emotional sense. Yes. Even a cathedral, you can discuss it is beautiful or not. The Gothic style. Yes. The modern buildings are generally without center because the architects doesn't know what's that. Yes. In some states, they become an order, build up that, and they make a model, and the leader comes and says, beautiful, he says, beautiful. But it is from above, yes, it is not an artificial development. And the old buildings are built, and even you will see the Quran, all these lines, yeah. Today, only 20 people in the world can do such wonderful handwriting of Islamic calligraphy, because they need a certain hal, a certain meditation to be so perfect. Yes? Don't forget, all these old buildings are made by architects who were Sufi or initiated and so on. The moderns are not, and you can see that. Yeah? And of course, there are some modern buildings, more or less not beautiful, but to a certain degree, not bad. Yeah? But and the mosque building now in the world are imitations. Yes, are imitations. Even here in Tehran, this new center, that is an imitation. It's a beautiful imitation, but it is not a creation from your midst, from the architecture meditation. Yeah, that is a great difference. There are different persons, the modern architects, or the architects of modern times, and the old architects. They were initiated, lived together in some groups. Guild is the name. They were a very strong regime, yes, for initiation, this degree, and this degree. The Freemasonry imitated this system, but they didn't build nothing. Yeah? Yes. But it is a certain relation to that. No, this book of Sedlmayr is very good. The losing of the midst, of the center, that is a key to understand modern, or to see the difference between old and modern. Of course, a man today can build something. I know that in Saudi Arabia, the most things are imitations. They are not creative. They are not creative, and all these great buildings, it's monstrous. Yes, they are in the holy city of Mecca. That's a shame. But it is the mirror of a certain regime. Yes, an absolute monarchy, and so on, who is not Islamic, to speak from the Shia point of view. Yes. That is the problem. Yes, of course, some buildings are good of modern building, but they have not a center. That's if we speak from the point of metaphysics. Yes. If you speak about subjective feeling of beautiness and so on, that's another thing. Yes, that's another thing. Mussolini's fascistic building, or in Germany, they were mirrored the system. And we are trained to see this system, and we have the first system and the second system, and we know that. We didn't elect these systems. Yeah? Therefore, we are very sensible for such things. And in Germany, high building is forbidden. In Munich, for example, was a referendum of the people of Munich, and they said no high buildings. No high buildings, not by metaphysical reason.
But Frankfurt has high buildings.
By subjective feelings, yes. Please?
Frankfurt has high buildings.
Yes, money. That's the money town, bankers. And they didn't ask the people there. They built it up. And that's different if you are real a community, yes, a real community. And in Bavaria are special laws to invite the people to say yes or no. And in Frankfurt they don't have such rules. We have a federal system. Yeah. And especially architecture is a mirror of the regime, of the taste, or if it is taste or not taste, yes? You can see a lot. I don't in London only by British Museum and some manuscripts and so on. I didn't see the whole thing and so on. Yes. Prince Charles criticized the architects very hard. They were shocked. Said, "What for nonsense these buildings?" You know that. Prince Charles in his good time. Huh? No. She criticized him. But what's that? You called it architecture without any principle and so on. No, it was great. I know the writers was Martin Links who gave him the ideas. No.
Martin Links wrote his speech for him.
Yeah.
Yes. All his speeches to these things wrote Martin Links.
And
Okay.
what will you say about the Rome, which is a symbol of totalitarian
Rome too.
architecture?
Yeah,
Is it ugly?
It is
No beauty at all?
Rome, the old antique.
Yes.
That's the mirror of the Roman Empire, power. Yes, the Colosseum, for example, for these games, yes. But there are some beautiful places, but it is a state, power. They show their power. Yeah. The Roman politicians, when we say, or the emperors.
But there could be a combination of power and beauty at the same time.
Yes, and the Greeks and so on. Because they, if you study, for example, Vitruvius, the great architect, and he wrote some volumes about Roman architecture, there is to a certain degree, a center, but only to a certain degree, because his system worked finally in the Hagia Sophia. The Hagia Sophia is not Greek architecture, but Roman architecture.
It's Armenian.
It's Armenian.
I beg it?
Armenian.
It was built by Armenians.
Yes, but the construction.
Armenian.
Yes, if you
Armenian.
see, yes,
It's
that's true, but it's not Armenian church or such. They have another style. It's not Armenian style, the Hagia Sophia.
It is Armenian style.
Yes, some elements. But the architect and the order was the king. He was not Armenian, he was Roman.
But the type of the architecture is Armenian. There are a lot of books written about the origin.
You will not find in our art history such expression. There are Armenian elements everywhere. That's right. Tchaikovsky, for example, wrote such books. Yes. Well, but metaphysics and architecture is a great problem. You see that, yes. And you see, who is lié, like the French would say, to certain architecture, yes. But
Okay, I have a question pertaining to intuition. Actually, when we talk about intuition and the unification of subject and object, okay, fine. But there would be another problem that whose intuition, number one. Number two, what would be the standard of the institution? And this also presumes that there would be a certain standard of reality as such. Right? Number one. Number two, it also presumes intuition, transcendence. Now, if intuition presumes transcendence, so how would you, obviously there are alternative, why not, if transcendence, why not immanence? Then there is another problem, in the notion of the root. Why reality is presumed to be, tree structured, horizontal. Why not, vertical? So, if we come up with the notion of intuition, it would be having certain problems that have to be, countered. What do you say about it?
Well, intuition is per se transcendent. Is per se transcendent in our sense, yes. The problem is, in general, to say that what is transcendent is immanent. But it is a very great problem. If you read, for example, Descartes, the Meditationes, you read them, blah, blah, blah. He speaks about God and so on. But it is all, with him begins the so-called immanence in philosophy without transcendence. But he is using a transcendent language. Yes, that is not easy to find out. But in metaphysics, is that what is transcendent, immanent within you? Yes. Your intuition is within you, is immanent, and is at the same time transcendent.
And how about the criteria? Who is going to intuit, and whose intuition would be regarded as an experience?
The self. The kernel is the true self within a human being.
Sorry, wouldn't that be, it would be sort of a reduction of to the humanism. Again, we are presuming that human is superior and he would be deciding. So wouldn't that be a problem for the religion, that how human can decide things, about...
Yes, he has the capacity of freedom. He has the capacity of freedom. He can decide wrong or not wrong or good, and he's responsible for that. But that's the kernel of religion, if you speak about religion, is to understand what is the true self. Yes, the true self. It's not the ego. The true self you can't grasp by thinking of nothing. The true self is behind the ego. Soham in Sanskrit. Soham. Or the Anal-Haq. It's not Ana, ego. That's a great misunderstanding. So that's the true self is Haq, not the ego. That would be really a great scandal if you say Ana, or I am the truth. Please, that's a scandal. But if you say Ana al-Haq in the sense, and that is the true sense by Haraj, my true self, that is God within me. Yes, Meister Eckhart said, something is within me that is uncreated and eternal, and we call that intellect. Yes, the intellect is the Latin description. You can say that in Sanskrit, or it depends the tradition. If the tradition are true, so you can explain that.
And ontological root oriented. Why ontology is presumed to be root oriented rather than vertical?
Yeah, that's ontology. That's the doctrine of being. That's a part of metaphysics. Yes, that's a new word here in our circle. Being, esse. Yes, and there are some saying God is being. There are great discussions in the Islamic philosophy is being an accident, or it is the substance. Yes, and Mullah Sadr said, Ibn Arabi, Suhrawardi, and Miradar are wrong because for them being is accidental, and he changed that and said, no, being is an expression for God. And that's the point where Mullah Sadra and Heidegger, that comes together, but to a certain degree. But you can find the same in Thomas Aquinas. Thomas Aquinas was at the same point within according being, the same. And not other philosophers. He is the philosopher of being. You understand? Good.
Can I ask questions? It is, I don't know, it is maybe because of the weakness of my power of perceptions. Okay, it is quite difficult for me to understand metaphysical knowledge without having a very concise definition of it.
There is no definition. That's the problem.
But we are talking about it all the time. We are talking about metaphysical knowledge, and we don't know which knowledge that we refer to. When we are talking, it is in the frame of our language, at least for the arguments and understanding in that level of intellectuality, we have to have defined, concise definitions. It is like that I'm following the discussions between us, and how is it metaphysical knowledge is beyond discursive arguments.
That's
or
the
language.
Message here,
yes,
yeah.
And when you said that it's the object of metaphysical knowledge is the supreme reality, and it contains everything, and how in derivations of generations of talking about metaphysical knowledge, we exclude it is not beautiful, and that is beautiful, and this is beauty, and this is not beauty, and how we can say that metaphysical knowledge, it is excludes things, and disperse instead of unified. It's something that I don't understand. And how when you mentions about perceptions, you said that we perceive things like we perceive the bottle, And the cat also precedes the bottle, and what's the difference between our perceptions and the cat perceptions? And you mentioned it is a reason. Okay, so if it is, referring to Brother Hussein questions, it is belong to the passivity or activity. In that level of perceptions within the framework of metaphysical knowledge, what is the positions of intentionality, intention, of the perceiver toward the object? Because, when we are talking about Wahdatul Wujud, there is one being, one reality, but in our phenomenal world, we live in that, subject and object. And the problem is not to deny or to affirm the existence of subject and object, but how to explain the relations between these two. Thank you.
Well, I will give you a lecture for that, but not now, because the main problems of modern philosophy in relation to metaphysics you mentioned, yes, and that's the problem. It's not a problem, but it is it is necessary to begin with that. And who began with that? Huh? We have the traditional explanation, which is very boring sometimes, yes, because it is not creative from a meditation or from a contemplation. So it is imitation. Especially in the Islamic world, you can see a lot of imitations, not creativity. Yeah? Imitation, even in thinking, a lot. And to do that, you need an encounter with the best philosophers who defended subjectivity, historicity, and so on, because these elements belong to, you are right, to the phenomenological world. Yes, and that is necessary to study. A true metaphysician would say, be realistic. Yeah, be realistic, even in the everyday. Yes, and they are the two metaphysicians. So the way from this world, phenomenological world, to the metaphysics is a long way or a short way. It depends, and you are free for that if you put away all limitations and don't try to make definitions. Definitions are limitations. In the logic field you can do that, and this is necessary and so on, yes. Aristotle created definition, and it was on a certain level necessary, but not in metaphysics. Not in metaphysics. There are no definitions. And it is necessary to read metaphysical texts. Plato, for example, Theaetetos. The problem are the translations. All these translations are they touch only one element in Plato. Yes. I yesterday said knowledge that's only one aspect. In Plato is homoiosis toteo. Here's how we can translate. It's the adequation to find out a way to God. Yes, it is one of the deepest expressions in Plato. Yes, and we can use, if we begin to make philosophy in the true sense, not academic, freedom from all ideas and theories, but it's difficult because we have all something within us. Yes, we are educated in certain systems, and we have to discover our own limitations. It is now good. Where is our own?
Okay. Sorry, could I ask you to go back to the talk you had, because we have half an hour before we break, and then we could have the discussion after lunch, please. Thank you.
Yes. So I will begin now with the new things. I explained Guénon and so on, but the criticism of modernity began within the German Romantic. romantic is romantic. No, they were thinker, very precise, and forget all these categories of history of philosophy. And I will speak about Franz von Baader, who is unknown, but who is one of the best philosophers. He was a friend of Hegel, and he discovered Meister Eckhart, Jakob Böhme, and so on, and all these mystical tendencies. He created that. And he is to a certain degree known and not known. In English, there are not translations. In French is a little translation, Fermenta Cognitionis, a little translation, not in English. And Mr. Wilson, at the end of the 19th century, tried to organize a translation, but it was not done. This Franz von Baader was born in Munich and lived in the midst of the 19th century. He was physician, mining engineer, manager of glass factory, and above all, philosopher. Incredible today, that a mining engineer or such is a philosopher in this normative world. Yeah. But he was one of the best. And he was a philosopher, is one of the most significant philosophers from the